Oh, no. Can you hand me one? Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, the RPDC building.
Okay. All right,
On with the speakers.
check the audio too.
Yikes.
Okay. Better.
I don't think they're all speaking. They're just all here.
This is some format, you can't, nobody's got it, so you can see. Everybody in here? You guys get company? Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here at the Sandra Day O'Connor Federal Courthouse. With me here today that will be speaking are GPS Director Frank Wilstad, there he is, Navajo County Sheriff David Klaas, thank you, Sheriff, Gila County Sheriff Adam Shepard, there he is, FBI Special Agent in Charge Sean Call, there he is, Chief Deputy U.S. Marshal Tim Hughes, Assistant Chief Deputy Van Bayless, who was the on-scene commander and was at the scene last night, and also Captain James Scott, Tucson Police Department. He's in charge of the Criminal Investigation Division that handled the homicide investigation that initially led to the arrest or the search warrants for the Barksdale. After a 16-day intensive hunt, we are pleased to announce the arrest of Blane and Susan Barksdale. As you probably already know, we've been chasing hundreds of leads throughout the country looking for the Barksdale during the last 16 days. Deputy marshals, FBI agents, sheriff's deputies, DPS officers, local police work in conjunction with us in tracking down all kinds of leads. And we were hoping one of them would come to fruition. And yesterday, one of those calls did. It turned out we were pretty sure this was the case. They were in Arizona the whole time. We believe they were up in that snowflake area, east of Snowflake, up till maybe a couple of days ago. We got a tip that came in that said that you might want to look in the area of the Pumpkin Center, which is near Roosevelt Lake. He has Barksdales both have an acquaintance there. Person has a drug background, was on federal probation for methamphetamine sales, and this was similar to a lot of calls that we've received. But this one was really intriguing because it fit the profile of staying in a remote area with individuals that thought and had the same background as they did. So last night, under the direction of Assistant Chief Van Bayless, took officers from DPS, the Sheriff's Department, Gila County Sheriff's Department, surrounded this house that we determined this individual lived, and the Barksdales might be there. We weren't 100% sure. It's about an acre house, a modular home with several trailers on it. The officers surrounded the house and started calling them out, the occupants to come out of the house. The owner of the house came out. Susan Barksdale, about 5 minutes later, came out. She was sobbing, very upset. She was taken into custody. She confirmed that Blane was also inside the house. Commands were made to come out of the house over a megaphone to come out. He waited about 5-10 minutes, and then Blane did leave the house. He initially was responding to commands to keep his hands up and to get down, but after a couple of minutes, he became very verbally abusive to the officers, flipping them the bird, not responding to their commands, and the deputy marshal at the scene had to use a taser and what we call a beanbag round in the leg to take him down to an effective arrest. And that ended the saga that we've been dealing with for the last 16 days. As I mentioned, FBI agents, U.S. Marshals, sheriff's deputies, local police working around the clock, working hundreds and hundreds of leads to find this individual. And it came down to a citizen who called, and maybe not even sure, but had an indication that this would be a good place for us to look. The Barksdales were booked into jail last night, Lawrence, and they have an initial appearance in Tucson at 3 o'clock today at the San Jose O'Connor Federal Courthouse before Magistrate Eric Markovich. Now, what's going to happen there is kind of a technicality. We became involved, the federal government became involved in this homicide case, which was a state case, by obtaining an unlawful flight to avoid prosecution charge. And that was our legal inways for the U.S. Marshals to follow up on this case. What's going to happen in court today is that UFAT, or the unlawful flight to avoid prosecution charge, will be dismissed, and Barksdales will be immediately turned over to the Tucson Police Department, where they will then be booked into Pima County Jail for the homicide that they're investigating, and still have unanswered questions on a lot of this on the case, so like where the body is and things like that. I know this red pickup truck was a big interest. Everybody saw it. I think everybody memorized the license plate. We still don't know where it is. It's up there somewhere in the remote area of northeast Arizona somewhere. So I mention that because we have received a lot of calls on that. Now, as Assistant Chief Van Bayless and a DPS trooper were booking Blane into jail last night, he gave us some good advice. He said, listen, be careful. It's dangerous out there. And I thought that was very fitting for Blane Barksdale to let the officers know that it could be a mean world, and to send them off with tidings of being careful to not only them but to all the police officers out there. So we found it was a good way for us to end this aspect of the case, and as he went into jail, God knows how long. Now, where do we go from here? This is obviously a big relief off our shoulders, but there are individuals that assisted the Barksdale from hiding from justice, and we will then transition to working investigation with the FBI on 2, 3, however individuals that were involved in hiding them out to escape justice, and we're going to work that from starting after this press conference to go after those individuals that hid out the Barksdales. At this point, I'd like to have Colonel Milstead speak. Colonel?
Thank you, Marshal. Good morning. Thank you for being here. Just briefly talk about what Arizona Department of Public Safety involvement was. After the initial escape, we were contacted by the Apache County Sheriff's Office. Myself and the sheriffs in all of these different counties, as they move through the counties, have a great working relationship. We get to be their first call for support when something becomes protracted or very large. They need additional staffing. They need air support, where we provided a standby helicopter during this entire time. Ranger 1 was actually overhead when this subjects were taken into custody late last night. It's actually very reassuring for me as the director of the state police and to be able to assist the sheriffs in what they're doing. Obviously, this became a federal case. The FBI was point on this kidnapping over state lines. I worked very closely with the FBI's special agent in charge, Sean Call. We spoke often about what was going on, and then with the U.S. Marshal here in the District of Arizona with Dave Gonzalez, to make sure that all of our people were working in harmony to resolve this as efficiently and expeditiously as possible. The thank you I have is that the media did a great job of keeping Arizona advised on what was going on. And the men and women on the ground, the boots on the ground that were working tirelessly day in and day out, supporting each other. And again, in Arizona, we have a special gift, and it doesn't matter what color your uniform is, what patches on your shoulder, or the shape of your badge. When it comes to working day in and day out, we work seamlessly, supporting one another to make sure that we all get to go home safe to our loved ones. And in this case, that's what occurred. And I didn't know the story about Blane telling my people to be safe out there, but I appreciate him doing that because we tell him the same thing. So thank you again for the support, and thank you to all the men and women that stand behind me and for what they did to make sure that everyone got home safe and 2 fugitives were called back to justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel. My office, including myself, spent a lot of time up in Navajo County, and it was a very difficult place to look for fugitives. We spent a lot of time in these enclaves, if you will, east of Snowflake, all the way to Apache County into New Mexico. There are a lot of people there that like to live off the grid, if you will, and have other unique issues going on up there. And the sheriff there, David Klaus, opened up his county to us, and the assistance provided by Navajo County was very, very, very valuable. Sheriff Klaus?
Yeah, I'm Sheriff David Klaus with the Navajo County Sheriff's Office. I want to thank the U.S. Marshals Service and Marshal Gonzalez. I received a phone call shortly after the discovery of the escapes in Navajo and Apache County. And Marshal Gonzalez and I have been on the phone pretty much every day, exchanging information. It's been a few days as the team moved up to our neck of the woods. And what we found is, not the Sheriff's Office, we deal with that every day, and you'll hear that from Sheriff Shepard as well. These remote locations offers a different type of manhunt than you would have in a rural or an urban area such as Phoenix, and so it took a lot of cooperation from the Sheriff's Office, and we offered a lot of working knowledge of the communities, the people, and we appreciate, again, the media support. When we started putting out the message that we believe them to be in the southern Navajo or Apache County areas, we saw a lot of tips come in, and we were following up on those areas with the Marshals Service and trying to track down these 2 individuals, which brought a lot of challenges due to the remote areas, and you can see they laid low for a very long time because of some of these remote locations, and fortunately we just kept continuing to follow up on these tips, and which led us out of the Navajo and Apache County area, but which we still feel to this day that they spent a lot of time there because of the connections that they had to those communities and the opportunities that it provided to kind of stay under the radar. But like Director Milstead was pointing out, this was a a great effort between our federal partners, state resources, and the local sheriffs with the Navajo and Apache Nalheta County, working together, sharing information, and we just continued on that fight. And it was great news to share with the people in Navajo and Apache County that obviously their concerns and their rise of concern had risen with the news that they were two escaped felons in the Navajo Apache County areas. And I appreciate the news we received last night that we're able to tell the citizens of those counties that they're no longer running those. So again, thank the Marshals Service for the cooperation and involving the local sheriffs in bringing these people to justice.
Thank you, Sheriff. As I mentioned, the arrest took place in Gila County, Tonto Basin, Pumpkin Center area, just near Roosevelt Lake. And it's interesting because we were involved in another major manhunt of some escapee murderers back about 2003, 2004, the McCluskeys that escaped from a private prison up in Golden Valley near Kingman. And it was interesting. Those murder suspects had also been in this same exact area. As a matter of fact, McCluskey's mother lived there, so it was interesting that both these escapees, both murderers, had been in this exact same location. And the sheriff of Gila County, Adam Shepard, great partner with all law enforcement, and I'd like to have Sheriff Shepard come up, please.
Well, good morning, everyone. Adam Shepard with Gila County Sheriff's Office, Payson and Lowe. I, like many of the other law enforcement leaders in the state, were alerted, of course, back when the escape first happened. We had no indication up till just recently that these individuals were targeting Gila County. But just like everybody else in northeastern Arizona, we did know that that was a possible destination for these folks. So we're diligent just in case something did come down our way. Of course, up until yesterday, when the marshals contacted us with information that they might be in our area. Tunnel Basin, for those of you that don't know Roosevelt Lake area, it's just a few miles north of the lake itself. It's very remote, less than about 1,500 people live there on a regular basis, and most of the residences and areas are pretty spread out, and of course it's surrounded entirely by the Tunnel National Forest. So there is a lot of remoteness here. There's a lot of places to hide, a lot of places to escape to, and so and we have had some fairly high notoriety bad folks in this area go there because it is so remote. So we do appreciate the fact that the marshals got us involved. We did put a couple of deputies on the case by their request, simply because of the area and our guys knowing the area much better, of course, than somebody that doesn't work there all the time. So we were able to work with them, and the operation, I just can't say enough about how much the cooperation between the agencies, DPS bringing in their resources and the feds, so that we could take these folks off in a safe manner, in where not only our officers were safe, but our surrounding citizens were safe as well. And that's one of the most important things to me, that this thing happens without loss of life or anybody being injured, because at the end of the day, that's the main thing. So, and it couldn't have happened without all of the cooperation that was going on. And I tell you, from myself and all the constituents that I have in my county, we certainly appreciate all the efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. On April 16th of this year, Mr. Frank Bly was reported missing, and this kind of started this whole snowball going. And I'd like Captain from Tucson PD, Scott, you can talk about the case, what got you going, and what you can discuss about the homicide investigation that led us all here today. Thank you.
My name is James Scott. I am the commander of our Central Investigation Division in Tucson, Arizona. This case did begin back in April 16th of 2019. It started out as an arson at a residence on the east side of Tucson. We responded to that. We learned that an elderly male had lived in that residence. He had several safes, quite a bit of property in the house that we believe may have been missing. We pursued this investigation, looking into it, trying to locate this subject, which brought us to the attention of Blane and Susan Barksdale. The information we received through this investigation gave us reason to believe that they may be responsible for his death. And we were able to get two homicide warrants for these individuals. We didn't know where they were initially. We knew where they lived, up in the Vernon, Arizona area. And we did some investigations up there. And with the assistance of Apache, Navajo County, DPS, even the Marshals Service, this cooperation began way back then during this investigation, which ultimately led to the arrest back in New York. I can't get into too many details about the investigation itself. We are still actively looking for Mr. Bly. He is currently missing. We do believe that he is deceased. He was murdered. I do want to thank, though, the Marshals Service. When I was called the night that this occurred, when Frank and, not Frank, but Blane and Susan Barksdale were missing, you can imagine what came out of my mouth. When I quickly heard that the Marshals were going to be investigating it, I was able to sleep that night. And through their cooperation and the great partnership that we have with them, DPS, Navajo County, Apache County, everybody's effort and time they put into this, we just knew it was a matter of time that they would locate these individuals. And they did. And we want to thank them and everybody involved with this. If there's any questions about the case specifically, after we're done here, I may be able to answer some things. So if we have any questions afterwards, I'll be happy to meet with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain. As I mentioned earlier, Assistant Chief Van Bayless ran the day-to-day operations, juggling a million things all at once, and was also at the scene last night, and I'd like him to come up. Van?
Good morning. So when I spoke to Marshal Gonzalez about coming up and speaking about the case and what's going on, had a flood of thoughts that went through my head, and Director Milstead touched on it, Sheriff's touched on it. I've been in the Marshal Service for quite a while, moved around this country and worked quite a few manhunts in a lot of cases. I've never seen the cooperation in all my life as I did here in Arizona with all the departments working so well together. So when the case first started, after the escape, and we needed to start focusing on which leads are good, which leads aren't good, Tucson, under Dave Smith, the Assistant Chief down there for the Marshal Service in Arizona, set up his command post. A lot of leads started coming in. They started going through and vetting which leads are actionable, which leads aren't actionable. We started getting a lot of focus on the northeast area of Arizona. And like we've learned in the past, when somebody goes missing, you got to pick up the pieces back in where they were last known to be. So we knew that we were going to be focusing up there in northern Arizona. So as more and more emphasis started going up there, we realized that we needed to put a forward area CP. So we established another command post up there in Shola. And DPS and FBI, Navajo County, Apache County sheriffs, they were phenomenal. We had one meeting in the afternoon. I don't even know which Monday it was. The days have been a blur. But we had one meeting on a Monday afternoon, and within the first 10 minutes, we knew that we were all going to get along great and work together. We were running about 21 hours a day at that command post with hundreds of officers that were involved. We were trying to utilize every asset that we had available because our priority, just like every other fugitive case, is always on protecting the public and keeping them safe. So when fugitives go on the run, there could be some desperation. They have two choices. They can either give themselves up or they can continue their path of flight. And our fear is that somebody was going to get in the way of them continuing to flee. They'd already given through their history in the past that they wanted to flee and get away. As you guys have heard, that the New York case that Dave's team actually oversaw and got them arrested the first time in that daring expedition to escape. We knew that they weren't going to just give up to us. So our fear was that they would come across somebody in one of these remote areas of northeast Arizona and potentially put them in harm's way, either trying to take over their home or their belongings or whatever else it was. So the public was the concern of all of us, and that's why the work went around the clock. So assets from all these agencies and the leadership of these gentlemen standing behind me was impeccable. It was amazing. We never had to ask twice for anything. The work was hand in hand with each other. We were able to cooperate. We were able to vet through literally hundreds, if not thousands, of leads, both in Tucson and in our forward area CP, to figure out which ones are actionable because we wanted the manhunt to end. not just because we want to sleep, but because we want to make sure that we're protecting the public. And we were able to do that finally yesterday, as Marshall stated. We got a tip. There was some information that was in that tip. It coincided with some of the other thoughts that we had. As Marshall stated, there's several individuals we're still looking at that we believe are actively harboring and helping the Barksdales move around. I got to have conversations with both of the Barksdales last night out there on the scene, and there's some holes in those stories, so we'll continue those investigations. But there was enough on this tip that we had to put an action plan together quickly. So we rallied up quite a few folks out of here in the Phoenix area, in the valleys, and sent them up that way. Quickly got on the phone with the sheriffs and their chief deputies and DPS, and we were able to amass about 50 individuals pretty quickly to get into that area. Because of the remoteness and again the protection of the public, we try to have ear surveillance as much as possible. So if there is innocent individuals that are in the area, we can try to get a hold of them and get them removed out of the area, not to put them in harm's way. And our priority is always public safety first, law enforcement second. And it's a hard apple to bite sometimes, but it's true. We volunteered for the job, we took an oath, and we know that we're there to protect the public. So we have to put ourselves in harm's way sometimes to make sure that the public is being protected. The air assets that were available to us and multiple different agencies assisted were phenomenal. And they were trying to reroute their operations and what they could do. And what that does is it gives us a really good idea of who's in an area, both friendly and potentially targets, and what our plan is going to be to effectuate an arrest safely. The plan at the end of the night was to surround and call out. And by surround and call out, we were backed way off that property. With the manufactured home and trailers, they don't provide much for protection if there was going to be gunfire coming from the inside of the house out. So we had to have a large standoff distance. And we were able to bring in Ranger 1 pretty closely and put a broad spotlight on the house. We had sirens going. The house was completely surrounded, 360 degrees by vehicles and about 50 individuals, law enforcement officers from multiple agencies. And we started the call-out process. Homeowner came out. He confirmed both were inside. A few minutes later, Susan came out, confirmed they're inside. As Blane stepped out, he was cooperative for quite a while, until he got about 15 feet from one of my arrest contact teams. And he became verbally abusive, also made some pretty aggressive movement towards individuals. They simultaneously used less than lethal devices, one being a taser and one being a beanbag around. Blane went down pretty quickly. While he was still under power of the tasing, the officers moved in fast. They handcuffed him, they helped him to his feet, they brought him over to a vehicle. One of my supervisors is also a medic. He was on scene with us and asked him to check him out. He went over, started treating Blane, and Blane became fully cooperative pretty quickly, and he realized that he didn't choose wisely with his actions, and he ended up talking to us a little bit. So we were happy to say that everybody was safe. Everybody went home safe last night. Even the suspects went home safe. He admitted to me in the jail that he brought it on himself, and that was his fault, and we're all doing our job. And he has nothing but respect for law enforcement. And as Marshal Gonzalez said on the way out, he told the trooper and myself, be safe out there, it's dangerous. And I thought that was pretty interesting, as we've been working 16 hours around the clock looking for him. And a lot of other folks have gone to jail because of their flight as we were working through leads and tips. Of course, we came across other individuals, and that's good. That's good for the community as well, because there's no issues, there's no uses of force, there's no problems, and we made communities a little bit safer. So it's a great operation, and we're happy that we're done with it, and look forward to seeing the Barksdales in custody and going and attending their hearings. Thank you.
Thank you, man, for the great job from day one on this case. Also, FBI, obviously a great partner with us, and they have a segment of, besides the arrest and, of these individuals the last 16 days, but they have another segment of this case they're looking into. I'd like a Special Agent Call.
Hi, good morning. My name is Sean Call with the FBI. I'm the Special Agent here for the Phoenix Field Office, which covers the state of Arizona. First and foremost, we would like to, our condolences go out to the family of Frank Clyde. And, not only they have to deal with the death of him, but also they had to deal with the last several weeks of looking for the individuals who we believe killed him. The FBI became involved with this during the escape of those individuals, and because the escape happened and the subsequent kidnapping of the guards that took place afterwards, we opened an investigation which is ongoing and continues. I won't talk too many details about that investigation, but I will tell you that we're not completed with that investigation. If any individuals has an idea of what the subjects did between the time they escaped until yesterday when they were arrested, please feel free to call the FBI. We've received a lot of tips on the FBI hotline, and we will continue to monitor those. I foresee this case continuing until we get federal charges on these individuals for kidnapping. And so that will be a separate from the homicide investigation which takes place down in Tucson. The individuals behind me represent an incredible group of law enforcement executives in this state. And I've been here a short time as the SAC, and I have not seen through my career a level of effort that we have. Through our partners here at the U.S. Marshals, with the DPS Director, Frank Milstead, and the county sheriffs is unbelievable, and I really appreciate that. And we should be proud as citizens of Arizona what a great level of effort our law enforcement executives and our agencies have. So with that, I thank you guys for being here, and I appreciate the work you do in getting this message out. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. And last but not least, Chief Deputy for the District of Arizona, Tim Hughes. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. First, I want to begin by thanking you. From your work in the public is exactly what helped us get this. We are not lying when we said we chased down hundreds of leads. Dave's shop down in Tucson was working through them. All our local, state, and federal law enforcement partners were out there with us. We kept looking and looking and looking. As the case narrowed where we thought they might be, again, it was the public who came to our aid. They were out there. They were actively looking for that red truck. We keep getting asked about the red truck. That's because you guys got the message out, and we really, really appreciate it. This area has been amazing. In just a few hours' notice, we were able to get 50 law enforcement officers into a remote area and catch 2 very violent and dangerous people. And it stopped them from continuing on the run, because the longer you run, the more desperate you get, and the more likely you are to hurt somebody else. So thank you again for all your help, your assistance, and it's good to be here in Arizona.
Thank you, Jim. And I apologize, but I forgot to introduce 2 other people up here, Lieutenant Colonel Jen Mitchell and Lieutenant Colonel Ken Hunter from DPS. I've worked both of them when I was at DPS, and fine representatives of DPS. That was all the formal comments we had to make. All of us are all available to answer any question for you for a little while, so please.
Was it just one tipster, and is that person going to get the cash reward?
Okay, please, sir.
So there was one tip that was called in yesterday, but it's much like all these cases, it's a huge jigsaw puzzle. You get little pieces, and through the investigation, you get different intelligence information. It doesn't make sense until you start putting the pieces together. You step back and you look at it, and then you start getting the complete picture. So we're very grateful for the tip that came in yesterday. There was a lot of other information surrounding that tip that tied into and made sense, and that's why we called on the resources of all these gentlemen and ma'am, your department, so that we could get all those officers out there. And there was no second guessing. They responded immediately, and they got all the assets there.
Do you think the cash reward helped, and is it one per tipster that's going to get the reward, or will it be spread out?
Yeah, so we'll work with the tipster on the information, and sometimes tipsters don't want to be a part of a reward. We actually do a great job of protecting them and keeping them anonymous, but sometimes they feel that it's their civic duty, and I've been involved in a lot of cases that they said, I don't want the money, I don't want my name out there, even once we assure them. So we're not sure about this individual, but I believe that they'd be eligible for part of the reward.
Is pretty much anyone who had contact with the Barksdales complicit in harboring them, or were there some people who perhaps innocently didn't know they were fugitives?
We think in this particular case, there are 3 or 4 individuals that were directly assisted them in harboring them. There might have been individuals that they ran into, talked to, and we're not, to be honest with you, we're not too interested in those individuals. We want those individuals that gave them clothing, maybe some food, hid them out, because they went underground for about 14 days there. So there's some people that assisted them, and those are the people that we really want to talk to.
And then, so this homeowner is going to be facing charges?
I would think one of them would be on top of our list, yes.
Can you say where the tipster spotted them? Can you say where they were spotted originally? By
Well,
the person who
Van
tipped
on
you
the
off?
tipster? I don't think they spotted them. They just said, hey, this is just a place you might want to look just on their history. They actually saw it.
And you guys had also mentioned, a couple of you had mentioned, saying to authorities to be careful out there. Was he doing that in a threatening way, or in just kind of a, kind of a casual way?
Van,
Was he?
you were there. I thought he was kind of,
Keep doing the walk back.
Was he
You
threatening?
were there,
Was
buddy,
he
yeah.
threatening you guys, or was he just
No.
saying it nonchalant?
I don't believe so. He was pretty nonchalant. He had calmed down quite a bit by that point. He changed his behavior quickly at one point before the handcuffs went on. And then he's pretty much laid back and free talking with us. He didn't disrespect us at any point. Do I believe he's a dangerous individual? Absolutely. We wouldn't let our guard down, and we tell the public in any fugitive circumstance, keep your distance and call 911 and get some information, but I don't believe that he was trying to threaten us.
Did anybody have any weapons in the home?
We did not come across any weapons in the home.
Any idea how long you've been at that location?
We don't necessarily believe some of the stories that we were told last night. We were told a few days, and we're still looking into that, and that's part of the investigation that we're carrying on of if somebody was actively harboring or eating in their escape.
But you mentioned earlier that he was in Snowflake, they were in Snowflake for a while, so would you say, out of the 16 days, how much was he up there? When did they decide to come down to this part of the valley?
Yeah, so in any of these cases, they obviously have the head start on us, so we're trying to catch up that lost ground. And so we try to figure out the next time that we can get ahead of them to cut them off so they can continue their flight. I do not know how many days they were broken down. I had strong feelings, and that gut instinct took over. And all these agencies that are behind me, we all agreed that we still need to be in that area, so we had a lot of resources up there in the Apache and Navajo County for a while, working through things. I still believe that they were up there until maybe at most a couple days ago, but we're still trying to work through some of that information.
I know you mentioned drugs early on. Was that a discernible source of income? Do you know if that was a source of income for them? And was the homeowner also supporting them?
So we don't have information yet that the homeowner was supporting them by any financial means besides providing, obviously, lodging and a little bit of rest maybe for them. Source of income while they were on the run, I don't believe that they were engaged in that activity. Do I believe that they're in contact with individuals who were engaged in that? Yes. And that's why other folks went to jail for the last couple of weeks. We were trying to leverage whatever we could with different individuals that may have known them or were in that drug trade or criminal organizations. I do believe that some of them were aiding in their flight.
Do you have any
connections with the Hells Angels? Is that organization, that kind of organization involved in covering them?
Yeah, we have no information that the Hells Angels were harboring them. We do know from his background in both state prison and federal prison, he had allegiances or contact with Aryan Brotherhood gangs, things like that in prison. But to answer your question, no direct knowledge of with the Hells Angels or any other group at this point. Now, we also know they helped because last night both the Barksdales had clean clothes on, new clothes. They also got from Snowflake, or east of Snowflake, where we're pretty sure they were, to Pumpkin Center, which is about 110, 120 miles, so somebody drove them there. Those are some of the things that we know, that obviously some people were helping them and providing lodging and a little bit of money, clothing, food, those kinds of things.
Do you have any feeling as to whether the place they took over the van or the place they picked up the pickup truck had been planned in advance?
Yeah, we have no information about that. I know the route seems strange for the transport company to come down through that route, but this prisoner transport van, it was like it was almost like a taxi. They pick up people, drop prisoners off. We know the other prisoner that was in the back with the Barksdale at the time was picked up in Kansas. So there was a lot of that going on, but we don't think it was pre-planned. I think once they got in the area, we believe that Barksdales did plan this between themselves and the ruse that they were going to use to stop it. And they obviously had contacts and people that would help them up in the Vernon area or in the Navajo County area.
Can you clarify, you don't
the
think...
details of their escape? I mean, I think that's the biggest mystery for everybody. Were they shackled? I mean, how did they overpower this driver? Did they have help at that point? How did they get the truck? In my mind, like, how did that all happen?
Well, I think basically what happened is they came up with a ruse that they needed to use a rescue, having intestinal problems, those kind of things. Got him to pull over. At that point, they overpowered him.
So were they handcuffed?
I think there was some restraints used to hold them in the back.
Right.
I don't have any specific information on how they did that. They then drove the prisoner van to Vernon, where they had an acquaintance who let him borrow the truck, if you will, whatever happened there, whatever was communicated there. Then one of the Barksdales drove the Sierra pickup truck. Another Barksdale drove the prisoner van down the road a few miles. The other Barksdale was driving the prisoner van. They got into the Chevy Sierra. They drove off together and left the prisoner and the two guards locked in the back. That's how.
Are you investigating any leads on where the body might be?
Yeah, we'll take any leads on where the body might be, and we'll coordinate that with the Tucson PD. And I'm sure the Tucson PD obviously wants to know where the body is, and all of us do. So any leads on where the body might be. I think the people that know where the bodies are, where the body is the Barksdales.
Was it the U.S. Marshals that, after taking them into custody, did they take them straight to Tucson? Are they here and then going to Tucson?
They're at a federal facility in Florence.
Oh, in Florence.
And they'll be transported to Florence.
Via the U.S. Marshals?
Yes,
Academy?
yes, definitely.
Not the same company,
No,
right?
not the same company. We'll take them to Tucson for their arraignment this afternoon at 3 o'clock.
So they are in Florence right now?
Yes.
Oh, so the 3 o'clock's Tucson, not...
The 3 o'clock's in Tucson.
Oh.
And that's why we put them in Florence, because we needed a facility that we could put them in, and then Deputy Marshals will make arrangements to drive them to Tucson. Probably at this, I was speaking for 3 o'clock arraignment.
Together or separately?
Separately.
Where in Tucson?
At the DeConcini Federal Courthouse, right downtown Tucson.
Magistrate Markovich, you said?
Eric Markovich, yes.
What kind of punishment could those who help them face, and what additional charges might they be, and punishments might they be?
Well, off the top of my head, I don't know whether, but it is a felony. It's a very serious felony. Years of prison time. But also, we want to send a message, not just to them, but to anybody else, because it makes our job so completely difficult. Because we know that when fugitives are on the run, they got to commit crimes to survive. Whether it's stealing, whether it's assaults, murder, whatever. We know the longer they're out there, the more victims that they will be. And we are not aware of anybody that was injured and killed or were robbed while they were out. I know yesterday there was an armed robbery of a bank in Snowflake. That was yesterday, yes. Yeah, and our hearts sunk. We thought, oh my God, they're robbing the bank. I think it was a Wells Fargo in Snowflake. It turned out it wasn't them, but those are the kind of things that just make our hearts sink when we hear about other crimes in the area. So we want, as Van mentioned, we want to prevent as many crimes and make sure the public is protected at all times.
David, so this truck in Vernon, have you contacted the people? Do you know whose truck that was?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So you contacted those, are those people in custody?
They are not in custody, but they'll be seeing us again. I'll put it that way. Okay.
So do we know where he went from that point with the truck? So he went to Vernon. What's the narrative? Has he spoken to you where he went to after he got the truck?
I'm not going to get into the discussions with them, but we know that they were in that area east of Snowflake for a long period of time. And we're just guesstimating at this point. We think they got to the Tonto Basin area within the day, or maybe 2 days before. But they weren't there. We weren't there that long.
Do you have a number of people that may have helped? I know there was 3 people in the Tonto Basin.
Yeah, those are the ones that we're really seriously consider. There might be more, and that's what we're going to look into.
Do you have any idea how they knew the homeowner?
Pardon?
Do you have any idea how they knew the homeowner or a previous association?
And we don't know where they met, but we know they've both done prison time, both arrests for drugs, but where they actually met. But they were very good acquaintances to both. The person in the Pumpkin Center was very good acquaintance with both Barksdales. So we believe it was in their present escapades or just in their mutual interest, let me put it that way.
Can you clarify, you mentioned that Blane was affiliated with the Aryan Brotherhood. Do you think it was that affiliation and those people in that particular gang that helped hide them all this time?
Well, as far as particular gang, we know that he has the affiliations, and experience tells us that when people get in these type of situations, they are going to go for comfort and support and assistance in any way with people that are like-minded. So it's a very strong possibility.
With the initial murder that they were wanted for in Tucson, do we know if they knew the victim, or is it somebody that, or was he targets because he knew he had a amount of ammunition?
They didn't know the victim, they were acquaintances, they had befriended him.
They had befriended him?
Yes.
All right, well, thank you. We'll stick around if you want to talk to anybody individually, okay? And thank you for being here, and thank you for all your support during the last 16 days. The media coverage really helped us out a lot. Thank you.
Comment, you said that the original time
Yeah, so it's, you're guilty, though. I think. Hey, Okay, Amelia. Hey, how you doing? Okay, so Camila.